All right, let's get some quotes from the back end. You remember last time we set up our service object here that was created with the builder. So let's go ahead and use it. Now, as you know, we're not going to want to do this on the UI thread, right? So somewhere in this guy, we have an update quotes method. So let's go take a look at that, right? So in our code, there's an update quotes method, and we've even given you a hint here. We want to kick off an async task to do this. So let's start off by writing that async task, right? Don't just do your query right here. So down in the bottom, you'll see we have a place to put some backend communication. So we're going to create a class here. So let's call this guy query for quotes task. All right, and this is going to extend the async task class, but again, it's parameterized. So we don't need to pass it any input, right? So that'll be type void, and we're not worrying about progress. But the return type is going to be a movie quote collection. So let's go ahead and spell this correctly, and then we can take care of some imports here. So let's go see what doesn't it like here. Let's see, so do we want to change this guy to async task? Let's see. Yep. Looks like I spelled it incorrectly here. Let's fix that. I think it'll be a little bit more helpful if I spell it right. All right, so async task. If I do, oops, if we right click on this guy here, then we can, well, actually, maybe it even did import it already. Let's go ahead and see if it'll import the other. All right, movie quote collection. Oh yeah, so it's all imported. Should be good. Let's see up top here. Yep, so it imported the movie quote collection from the class, and it imported async task. I just had to spell it right. All right, so back down bottom here, this right here has a method that we need to override, and that's do in background, right? So you know, it's actually almost a one-liner, right? Let me show you what we could do almost. So don't type this. So mService, okay, we say, hey service, what we want from you is we want a movie quote. And if we look at this right here, it says that movie quote is an accessor for creating requests from the collection. So let's go ahead and do that guy. And then dot, and there's a method here for list, right, which is going to get all the quotes. And actually, this is actually our doc string from back from our backend, right? When we type this, right? So create a request, and then it says right here, after you set any optional parameters, call the execute method to actually make it happen. So I could say, hey, let's see, movie quotes dot list dot execute, and we see that returns a movie quote collection, which is what the return type of this guy should be. All right, so this is really the guts of what we're doing. We're saying, hey service, take the movie quote and call the list method, right, which we had written before. So you remember movie quote, we had done things like naming it on the back end is like movie quote dot list. So things like that, and then execute it. Problem though is that we need to deal with exceptions, right? So let's go ahead and we'll actually do it a little bit better here. Surround it with a try catch block. So let's do this right here. So it's going to complain that we may not be returning anything. So let's make here a movie quote collection. All right, and this will just be my quotes, and I'll initialize that to null. And then instead of returning it, I'm going to set quotes equal to it and return the quotes after the fact. All right. And this is actually sort of the minimal thing we could do if we wanted to run this code. All right. Let's do a little bit better in a couple of things. So let's first of all, let's break this up, and this list, it says that if you remember that it said that you can set some optional parameters. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to split this up into a couple of lines here. So we will instead make a movie quotes dot list. All right, let's see if it'll let me do this. So movie quote, sorry, dot list is the type. And we're going to call this guy here a query. And that's going to be mservice.moviequote.list. So that's everything except for executing it. All right, now we want to take this query and we want to set some things on it, right? So we can do things like setting a limit, right? So you could say, how many quotes do you want to get? It turns out that if you were going to get more than 50, and it expected a long here, so I'll put a capital L. If you were going to get more than 50, then you'd have to deal with page tokens. Don't want to deal with that. So I'm going to set the limit to 50. The other thing that I might want to do is to be able to set the order. Do you remember back in our query, back on our back end, that we allowed it for query fields to give it things like limit and order and so on. So that's why we can set them right here. So set order, and then this guy right here is going to be negative last touch date time. Okay, and remember I'm using underscores because that's what we had done back in Python. Right. Then finally, the quotes itself, I'm going to ask the query to execute. Right. And I'd encourage you to take a minute and see that really all that we haven't really changed anything significantly from the one-liner that we had in the beginning, except that we broke it up so that we could set the limit and the order of some parameters here on the query itself. Very good. Last thing that we're going to do here is, rather than dumping the stack trace, we can log it. So log.d is for debug, log.e is for errors. So here I think we have a movie quotes tag that we had set up already. And then we'll say something like failed loading, and then we can give the error here. Okay. Go ahead and import log. And almost ready to run. So the only thing that we haven't done is take this task and asked it to kick off, right? So let's go back up to, in our main activity we had update quotes. Let's go back there, and it says kick off an async task. So we'll make a new query for quotes task, and you can name this guy with a variable, or you can just keep it anonymous and ask it to execute. And we're not going to pass in any parameters, all right? So we'll leave that empty right here. So take a step forward in faith and say that I've done that. Let's go ahead and run it in the emulator. If you do that, you can come up here and go to synchronize it, right? It will actually crash. So let's take a look to see what happened. So I'll go into my logcat, and let's see if we can find this here. So async task, an error occurred while doing this guy. And it says caused by java.lang.security, permission denied, missing internet permission. Oh yeah, we need to have access to the internet. So let's go ahead and do that. Do you remember, it's been a while since we've done this, you remember where to do it? Yeah, okay, so in our manifest. So let's go into the manifest. You can set permissions and add one, or you can just add them directly here. So under uses SDK, I'm going to type in uses permission, and then control space, Android name, control space, Android dot permission dot access. Let's see, nope, let's try this. Internet, there we go. All right, very nice. Let's try that again. So back here and rerun. Emulator's back up. Let's go ahead and sync it and see how we do this time around. And still nothing, right? So let's see. Looks like we forgot to do something, right? So what have we done? Let's go back. We've kicked off a task, and we've returned it here as a movie quote collection. What we haven't done is actually use that to update our adapter here. All right, so that'll be our next step. All right, so what we want to do is we want to have our task notify the UI when it's done. And the way that we do that is we override the onPostExecute method. You'll notice that it will stub in here with the correct type of the result. In fact, that's the same result here. So in fact, we might even want to, we might even think about calling this guy quotes here. But let's make sure that it actually works. So let's see. Should probably check to make sure that it's okay. So if the result were null, right, then again I could log this guy as an error. So let's go ahead here and say something like, failed loading, result is null. All right, we don't anticipate that it will be, but just in case. And what we want to do is we want to update our adapter. There's lots of different things you can try. What I've found to be most helpful in the past is actually to just recreate the adapter. So right here we have the adapter as a local variable. I'm going to copy that code, these two lines here where we create the adapter, and then call set list adapter on it. And I'm going to jump back down to my onPost execute and copy these guys in with one change, right? So we don't have test quotes anymore. This is going to be something from our result. So let's go ahead here. Result is a movie quote collection. Let's see what we have available to us. So result dot, and let's see if you notice here that there is a get items method that returns a list of movie quote, right? Because that's essentially what a movie quote collection is, right? So we're going to call that guy there. Let's go ahead and make sure maybe we need to do some typecasting or so on. Let's see, constructor is undefined. Let's see, so this is no longer this, right? So we are inside an inner class. So let's make this main activity dot this, and that should be okay. All right, run it. In my emulator, let's hit the sync button. And impressive, right? Now we're actually getting the data from the back end. Very, very nice. Now you may think at this point, well, maybe there's, why don't I just load this up in the beginning? And that's a pretty easy change to make. So let's go ahead and try it. So I'm going back up to the top here. I no longer need these test quotes, right? Don't need those. Don't even need an adapter here, right? I mean, all of this I'm doing in my update quotes. So what keeps me from just calling update quotes right inside on create? Let's try it. Okay, I'm running it, and it's saying that it's loading, and actually went by pretty quickly there. I came up with a little loading parameter or a little loading message there, and then it went through and updated these guys. Super, right? So great lesson. Hopefully things are working for you. If not, again, just a reminder, you want to make sure that your actual that your backend is deployed and that it's working without errors, right? So you've done plenty of testing there. If you have any issues and you want to test it sort of, say you had issues with your backend but you still want to test it, feel free, if you'd like, for testing to use mine, and then hopefully mine will be up and running, or use a friend's, whatever you want to do there. But make sure that you have a running backend to connect to. And again, the place to do that, to set it, will be inside inside this movie quotes class, and just whichever one you use, make sure that you set it here. All right, that's it for now. We'll see you back for the next lesson when we learn how to insert quotes into the back end.